Okay, folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier. We're having an emergency WrestleRide with Mike, and this day will go down. I guess was today Thursday, June 18th. Today was the 18th, I believe. 2020, probably for many of us, myself included, the worst year ever. Just in things, I mean, pick your poison. It's the big two, really. I think at the end of this year will be COVID-19 virus killing hundreds of thousands of people worldwide, and then the George Floyd killing resulting in protests and also riots. And I always distinguish between a protest and a riot. Unfortunately, more people, police officers, civilians, injured and killed in that. For basketball fans and also mainstream fans, Kobe Bryant's death, presidential Donald Trump, all in terms of politics, having issues, obviously. So where do we stand now? Well, now the world of professional wrestling, which has had its ups and downs this year, has somehow muddled through with live entertainment for the most part, despite no audiences being allowed. Now we have a sexual allegations against many of our top wrestling personas. And people are assembling memes with listing names, and for many of us, probably the most interesting, perhaps, case is Jim Cornette and his wife Stacy. And there's been some release from a Twitter account, and I'm not sure if that Twitter account individual, his I believe it's a he, real identity is being shared, but that's one of the things that's an issue here is, when people make accusations and they have these Twitter accounts, and it's a shitty thing all around, because first of all, the act of sexually harassing someone or promising them career advancement or threatening a lack of career advancement if they don't partake in sexual activities, that's blackmail, that's sexual deviancy, it's disgusting, it's foul. We don't know if Jim Cornette was aware of these messages. Apparently his wife at the time was sending, but that might be revealed. And look, Cornette going after people is nothing new, but now someone's going after him, via his wife. So Cornette blocked me years ago from good old Twitter. I don't know if it was because I took an issue with some of his meat eating stands. Remember that I was trying to explain to him that, it was just something he was going on a tangent about eating meat and so forth and blah, blah, blah. How do I feel about this? I'm in stunned silence, to be honest with you. I know this is a wrestle rant. You came here for my opinion. But I have to say this. We still live in a country where innocent until proven guilty. And maybe that's naive on my part. Maybe these days it's you're accused of something, it means you did it. Well, I try to live by the old school ethics, innocent until proven guilty. But there's a lot of accusations today, and I'm not so naive to think that at least in some of these cases, there's truth to these allegations. And look, I've had one toe in the world of professional wrestling. I've done commentary on the local scene and very happy. And from what I saw in a group like Top Rope Promotions, everyone got along pretty well. There was that infamous Scott Hall incident with Top Rope Promotions, but Scott came to us as an outsider, and to be honest, Scott was not in good shape, and that was not sexual harassment. that was a wrestler performing when he shouldn't have been performing. But he came to us that way, not the other way around. That's a whole other story. And I believe Scott Hall has since returned to Top Rope and everyone's hugged and handshaked. I did wrestling back in the day in New England, a few matches myself until I lost a retirement match and stayed retired. Did I ever see anything like this? No, I personally didn't, but I was not as deeply involved or as involved for a long period of time that I would potentially see this stuff. You see what I'm saying? I can't say that I had a career where I wrestled 300 days a week, or 300 days a year, 300 days a week, that's pretty good. So I'm not denying that any of this shit happened. I'm just saying, in my experience, which I said, one toe in the ocean of pro wrestling, I'm not going to claim that I've seen it, but I'm not going to claim that it's not possible. It's very possible. And especially these days with an infusion of women's wrestlers, you have so many beautiful, talented young women wrestlers integrated with the athletic, you could probably justifiably assume horny male wrestlers, and their testosterone, their estrogens, or whatever the fuck's estrogens, are blown up out of proportion. Everyone's very pumped up, half-dressed, dressing rooms, so forth, that these type of horrible situations are probably privy to that, meaning that when you have all these young athletic people in their 20s and 30s, and some older, some younger, that's just a lot of room, a lot of room for error is what I'm getting at. So I can see that the world of pro wrestling was ripe for a crisis like this. Are any of these cases true? Are any of them made up? I want to go out on a limb and say this. There are some that are probably very true and some that are probably made up. Because when you've got a list of 50 or so names being thrown around, I would assume by the averages, at least one of those cases is 100% accurate, and at least one of them is 100% bullshit. And there's all the other ones, they all fall in the spectrum of truth, lies, facts, stretches of the imagination, and so forth. The problem is, folks, that people love to read the headlines and then they make a judgment on someone. But are we going to stick around and see where this really goes before we cast judgment on any of these accused folks? And look, some of the people on these lists, I saw Joey Ryan's name on one of these lists, and I've made a couple of videos where I've criticized Joey and his dick flip. However, if Joey Ryan committed no crime, as far as sexual harassment, I'd hate for him to live with that accusation. Now, if he did commit the crime, or whatever the fuck, then let that take its course legally. But I don't know, because I wasn't there. And I think that's one thing that I would like to think that I'm, bold enough to say, folks, I was not there for any of these situations. Most of you were not either. So once again, I'm not trying to take the easy way out here, but it's alarming. I still want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, even if that's naive. Those Cornette wife's tweets or messages, unless those were photoshopped and totally made up, then it's quite a bit of evidence. And yes, people are already kind of coming after Cornette. I was speaking with Joe Cronin tonight, my good friend Joe, and Jim Cornette used to come after Joe pretty hard. And Jim Cornette's name came up today on the Conrad Thompson podcast. Conrad said he listens to Jim Cornette. So, Jim Cornette, as obnoxious as he's been, as forthright as he's been with his opinions on other people, now, and blocking me, blocking many others, having his issues with Dave Meltzer. I wonder where Brian Last is going to go after all this. what ship will he put his feet into? Will he stick around the wrestling world? Because he's been kind of riding the Jim Cornette love train for quite some time. So, folks, it's just a crazy day. Like I said, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, but my guess is as good as fucking yours at this point. I really don't know what to say, except that I hope the bottom line is that the truth comes out. Not to say that, I hope that all these accusations are false. I'm not going to say that. And I'm not going to say that I hope the accusations are true and certain folks get crucified or lose their income because of it. I'm going to say I hope the truth comes out. That's what I hope. I hope the truth, and look, sometimes the truth is hard to distinguish because people interpret things differently. That's a tough thing. But if people were harassed, if people were put upon in a way that threatened their careers or their potential livelihoods, unless they performed acts of sexual servitude, I hope that those people are the people that were victimized, if there was victimization, are able to tell the story and to have themselves be heard and all that stuff. And for the people that, if there was criminals or crimes committed, that they're dealt with properly and legally. But I don't know, I can't say who did what or what did who. But it's certainly going to be an interesting development. I mean, this year, 2020, has been horrible. And I just say that it's another example to be respectful of all people. And you might have seen me change my Twitter account name from Angry Wrestling Fan to Retired Wrestling Fan to Opinionated Wrestling Fan. I'm still on Wrestling with the Future podcast. I'm still co-hosting these interviews and enjoying it, but it's a tough year, folks. So just try to stay calm. We will get through this. MikeMessier.com.